Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, welcome to Be My Guest. Today we have with us, I'm going to say her whole name correctly, Dorothy Cooper Browne, and she has written a book called The 4 States of Abuse. Welcome, Dorothy.
Thank you very much.
Now, this is a true story. It happened with her growing up. I'll just read you a little blurb from the back. 4 States of Abuse is my personal journey of experiencing abuse from childhood to adulthood. I did not know that I was being abused at times, but it was abuse, mental and physical. I was born in the South, sheltered from society, taught not to question adults. When did you start writing this? You were telling me off camera, but tell us all about how you got started to write it.
After I had been through the abuse and I moved to Rhode Island to start my new life, I started thinking back through all the things that I had been through, and I wanted to put it down, but at that time I just wasn't ready. I'd write a few pages, kind of ponder it for a little bit, and then say, okay, I'm not going to follow through with this, throw it out. Then something would come up either in my mind or something was mentioned by one of my sons, and I'd start again, and they kept saying, Mom, you need to write this down. But it was just always something that I started, and at some point, for some reason, I would just put it back and not do it. So with domestic violence being so much in the forefront now, I decided it was time to put it and follow through with it. COVID came along, which gave me some extra time.
Yeah.
And so I just got started and just kept going.
And you published this, was it this year or last year?
June of 2021. I happened to have a friend named Thea Fielding, who we had worked together at a bank, probably about 15 years ago, and found out that she was into publishing, contacted her. She read the copy and felt that it was something that I should do, but she said that she would have, not pressure me one way or the other, but it was a story that should be told.
Definitely. Have your family members read it?
My family members, my immediate family, my 2 sons, my husband, that's pretty much it as far. I don't really have family, outside family, that I'm in touch with.
Yeah.
So.
You came in, were you born in Kentucky?
I was born in Columbus, Georgia. And my mother decided, I was a sickly child, I had rickets. And to her I was an expense. She worked as a maid, and she felt she didn't have the money to take me to the doctors and I guess take care of me. So there was an aunt that didn't have any children of her own. So they had the conversation, and so she volunteered to take me and to raise me.
And that's where you started with her. The abuse didn't start with your mom. It started once you got to your aunt?
Well, the abusive part with my mother that I felt was abuse was that the fact that she just ignored me.
Yeah.
Didn't want to have anything to do with me. Tell me just go sit down in the corner somewhere.
Were you the youngest, Dorothy?
No. I was the youngest at that time.
Yeah.
But after I went to live with my aunt, my mother had 2 more children.
And what happened to them?
She kept them. And that made it hurt even more for, her have more children after me.
Whoa.
And keep them and not want to be bothered with me.
Tell us what it was like when you went to your aunt. Your mother rejects you. How old were you when she did that?
3.
She's 3 years old. Kids at 3 pick things up. I have memories at 3 years old. We're sponges.
Yes.
So you went to your aunt. What was it like?
I don't have a lot of memories back that far, but I know that my aunt we lived in West Virginia. Her husband was a coal miner, She was an older woman. She probably was in her 50s
Yeah.
when I came to live with her. And I don't think she knew that much about children. She was very, very strict.
Oh.
She was a disciplinarian. Any little thing, I would get a spanking. I got switch. I had to go. She would send me outside to pick a switch off of a cherry tree and to bring it in.
That you got whipped.
Yeah, I got whipped so that she could whip me with it. We had chores for every day, even as a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I remember us going out in the fields because she had a farm, a little farm, their personal farm. And we would go out early in the morning to pick grapes. And she would say the reason why we had to go out really, really early is because the snakes came out once the sun came up. But since I couldn't reach the grapevine, she would get a stool and lean it on part of the bounding of the grapevine so that I could reach up high enough to be able to pick the grapes.
Did you ever run into a snake?
Never ran into a snake.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, I know.
Oh no.
I know.
So she did that. You were the only child that she had in the house,
Yes.
but she was abusive.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to me.
I know.
Was she raised that way too?
Well, I don't know her background,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking this is probably the only way she knew, and she probably was raised that way.
Yeah.
She would just get upset over she was, I guess it would be OCD,
Yeah. Yeah. I have a friend like that.
perfectionist,
Yeah.
and she would get upset over a fingerprint on a table,
Oh.
or if I spilled a glass of water, I would get whipped.
She would yell and scream. And
Yeah,
get upset.
yell, scream, profanity. I never talked back. I just went along with it because I was so afraid that if I upset her, that I would end up in the foster system or who knows where. Because my mother obviously didn't want me, and my aunt was just kind of tolerating me. She had me to do like a lot of different chores. I mean, I was like helping clean the house when I was 4.
4?
Yes.
Oh.
Sweeping, getting down on my knees, not mopping the floor. I learned to cook from scratch. Start cooking. We had a coal stove in the basement,
Yeah.
and she would can the different fruits and vegetables during the season, and I would help her with that. One of the very fond memories that I do have is we would get the grapes, put it in one of those big round
Yeah.
buckets,
Yeah.
and she would tie white sheets on my legs, and I could get in that bucket and
Pound the grapes?
Pound the grapes.
Was she making wine?
she was making jelly.
Yeah.
Didn't make and grape juice. She didn't make wine.
How did it taste? Pretty good?
Very good, very good.
So you were fed. You were
So
well
I
fed.
was fed. I was clothed,
Yeah.
but just alone. She didn't allow me to play with any of the kids. We had a daily schedule. On Mondays, we washed the clothes. On Tuesday, the clothes were ironed. The clothes, when they were ironed, she would take the Argo starch. I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody's familiar with that. It's
Yeah, I
chalk,
am,
and you
yeah.
mix it with water
Yeah.
and starch the clothes and put them in a basket. And then on early Tuesday morning, we'd get up and we would iron all the clothes. My uncle was a coal miner,
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
and he had the one-piece coveralls, and I would have to iron those. And if the crease wasn't exact end to end, she would wet them, put them back in the basket, and let them sit, and I would have to redo them.
How'd that make you feel?
I just really didn't think about it. What she said goes. I never had the nerve to question anything that she said or anything she did. She took me. She was taking care of me. She was feeding me. She was clothing me, giving me the essentials of life.
You went
So,
to school, right?
I went to school. When I turned 6, I went to school. And then I started getting bullied at school because my aunt would buy me dresses,
Yeah.
and I had to wear the same dress 2 days in a row.
Oh, God forbid, right?
Yeah, 2 days in a row. So all the kids start teasing me because I had to, same dress. So on Fridays I was like elated because I got to wear a different dress and not 2 days in a row. She bought me the black and white saddle Oxford shoes,
Yeah.
and I kept getting them dirty, scuffing them at the toe.
Sure.
So she decided she would dye them black,
All black?
all black. So then they looked like boys' shoes,
Oh.
and the kids started with, I was wearing boy shoes.
Yeah.
I had play clothes,
Yeah.
school clothes, and church clothes. So I wore whatever outfit to school. As soon as I got home, I had to take that off, hang it up, especially the dress,
Yeah.
make sure it didn't get any more wrinkled than it was.
Yeah.
Put on my play clothes, even though I didn't really go out to play, but I had clothes that I had to change into. And on Sundays, we had dress-up clothes. She was very much into dressing very nicely with the hat, the heels. That was God's day.
Yep.
Give him his due. Show him your best.
Did you go to one of the Baptist schools?
We went to a Baptist church.
Yeah. I have a Baptist minister in my family.
Oh, okay. We went to a
Maybe
Baptist
I think
church.
I have two.
She was in the Missionary Society.
Yeah.
So we went to missionaries on Wednesdays at 10 or 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, after we got out of that, then it was time to do chores. The house would be completely spotless. There'd be nothing to do, but we would redo.
Oh, that sounds
Just
like
to
a
have-
friend of mine.
Just to have something to do and not be idle.
So she was afraid of giving you a chance to just sit and be.
Right.
Wow, I had just the opposite upbringing. My mother once said to me, she says, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I said, "I want to just be." Whatever.
Yeah. She taught me to cook, like I said, from scratch. Everything was made from scratch.
Yeah.
On Saturdays, we would get everything that we were going to have for Sunday dinner. We would prepare everything, cook everything.
Yeah.
And because on Sundays when we came from church, we changed into our regular clothes.
Yeah.
And we sit down at the table and we had supper. But we didn't cook anything. It was just a matter of warming things up.
Warming it up.
Yeah, because you didn't do work on a Sunday.
We are talking with Dorothy Cooper Browne. She has written a wonderful book called 4 States of Abuse. How can they get a hold of your book, Dorothy?
4 States of Abuse is on Amazon. It is also on Barnes and Nobles. And just basically put in 4 States of Abuse or my name. It should come up.
Yeah. Now you're down in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Yes.
Right? And I'd asked her, have you been getting presentations and book signings? And I guess you're still in Rhode Island right now.
I'm still in Rhode Island.
And I was trying to tell her about the myriad of places in Massachusetts right next to you.
Yes.
I mentioned Tatnuck. You're the first author I've had on here who didn't know what Tatnuck was, but it's like 8 minutes up the road. Fantastic bookstore. They love authors. There's a ton of places. I mean, that's what I do. I help people get out. But I'm telling you, you would be very welcome. You're a good speaker. When you graduated high school, did they make you class valedictorian? I would think they would have.
No.
Why not?
When I graduated high school, I was about 5 months pregnant.
That's right. Okay.
They did not even want me to march in the book, the graduation. But I was very, very small,
Yeah.
and I didn't look pregnant. So they couldn't prove one way or the other. It was just hearsay that I was pregnant. So since they could not prove for a fact that I was pregnant and being in a country town, I don't know if there was a way for them to do it or not. So they did let me march. I even timed the pregnancy.
How'd you do that?
My boyfriend and I just sit down and I said, well, supposedly he was not supposed to be able to have any children.
He wasn't?
No, he had hurt. He caught his scrotum in a tree. And he had some medical things that kind of split. And supposedly he was not going to be able to father any children. So that's what he told me.
Wow.
He did have a paper
Yeah.
that said that.
It didn't work.
And so I'm, I took a chance.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking he can't have any kids. Who gets pregnant the first time they have sex?
Oh.
I mean, and he didn't pressure me into having sex, but he had other girlfriends.
Oh.
So it was like, okay, you can be the one if you have sex with me.
Well, what did he think about having the baby?
I don't even think he got that far because, again, he wasn't supposed to be having any kids, and nobody gets pregnant the first time that they have sex.
Did you tell him?
Yes, I did.
He didn't believe you?
He didn't believe me, no.
DNA wasn't tested back then.
Right.
Oh my God, Dorothy.
Yes, but that is exactly what happened, and my oldest son was born 9 months later to the day.
Oh my God, and you were how old?
I was 18.
You were a baby.
I had never babysit a day in my life, so I had no idea what I was doing.
Were you still living with your aunt?
I was still living with my aunt. At that point, she was sick, and she was in a nursing facility, but my uncle I stayed with him.
Okay, he was good to you?
We were never really close.
Yeah.
He was very, very quiet, and I think he was probably scared of my aunt, too, because she mistreated him also. She would scream at him, curse at him, sometimes even hit him, but he never said anything.
She would hit him?
Yeah. And he would just walk away.
It sounds
and
like
go into another room.
a matriarch type of family. Matriarch. I grew up with the patriarch were more of the head of the family. It sounds like in your background, were the women more the head of the family?
Well, again, I don't know that much of the history, but she definitely ran that house.
My gosh, how old was she again?
I'm guessing 50-ish. You know, when you're 3, 6, you're not sure.
Yeah.
And, you see mothers and they're in their 20s. Another thing I got bullied about because I was being raised by this old aunt.
Old at 50?
Well, then, old was 50.
Yeah.
You're talking 50 years ago.
Yeah.
20, the average mother was in her 20s.
Yeah. By the time I had my son, mothers were now in their 40s starting out.
Right, because they were waiting till later now.
Yeah.
But back then, you had your kids in your 20s. And
so where is it your son? Do you have a boy? I
have 2 sons.
2 sons.
Yes.
And how did you leave your aunt to go raise them?
Well, after I graduated from high school and helped my boyfriend graduate because he didn't have good grades, so I was doing his homework and my homework. And when he finished, he went to live in New Jersey, which is where most of his relatives settled. Home base still was West Virginia, but most of them I don't know why New Jersey, but most of he had 10 sisters and brothers, and probably about at least half of them were in New Jersey. So he went to live with his sister to get a job, and I was still there with my uncle while doing my pregnancy.
Is he still in the picture with these children of yours?
Once he went to New Jersey,
That was it?
that was it.
You raised them alone.
But he gave me the option of coming to New Jersey.
Yeah.
And it turned out that me, as well as another young woman, were pregnant at the same time.
Ah.
This man that can't have any kids.
By the same guy?
By the same guy.
And you were friends together?
Well,
you and her?
we knew each other.
You knew each other?
We knew each other. And we knew that we both were seeing him. So her mother adopted her granddaughter.
Oh.
And so she stayed with her mother and her daughter. And Jay gave us the choice of one of us coming to New Jersey to be with him.
Right.
He didn't care which one.
Here we go again.
We couldn't make the decision.
Shades of not caring about,
Yes.
Yeah, something you went kind of through.
Yes. So since her mother had adopted her daughter, she decided to stay in West Virginia. Another thing with West Virginia, it's a coal mining town.
Yeah.
And again, you're talking in the 50s. So there weren't any job opportunities for women. Even if I was to get a job, who's going to take care of my baby?
What'd you do?
That's when I decided that I'd move to New Jersey.
With him?
With him. And he was okay with that. Because basically, I had my own allowance.
Yeah.
And so I was sharing that with him.
Was he giving you child support?
No.
How did you guys exist?
I had some money that I had saved. My uncle gave me an allowance from when I was young.
And you saved it all those years?
And I saved some of it.
You never spent anything on yourself as a child?
I spent, my aunt would buy me material things.
Yeah.
And I think that was their way of showing love. They never, ever said, I love you. There was no hugging. There was no touching.
Oh, my God.
So I'm just thinking that by buying me things, that was their way of showing love. I never went with that. I mean, I had more clothes than the most people,
Sure.
young people, because most were, families of 3, 4, 5, and I was just me.
Yeah.
So when my aunt would buy something for herself, usually she would buy me something also.
Right.
I had to take care of it and, only wear it on certain occasions.
Yeah.
But I never liked for clothing or
Right.
at Christmas time, they would wait until Christmas Eve, get the Christmas tree, put the tree up, because at this point I still believed in Santa Claus.
Yeah.
The nuts in the bag, the apples, all the presents around the Christmas tree. I woke up on Christmas morning. Santa had come, and all of these gifts were there for me.
That's great.
And I mean, I had a lot
Yeah.
of toys, material things, toys.
So the main abuse was horrible enough. She would whip you.
Yes. Scream at me, curse at me, hit my hand, slap my face, beat me with the belt.
That's traumatic. Doesn't that come of PTSD years later?
Yes, it did.
Did you go into counseling?
I didn't go into counseling until probably about 5 years ago.
How did you like it? Did you like it?
I was not happy with my first person that I had, but I had to find a match. And when I found the match, it really made a difference. A big
It does.
difference.
There's a lot of people going into counseling now. I tell friends, if you sit in the office, waiting room, you're likely to see a lot of people coming in and out. It's like going to the dentist now. It hasn't got that stigma like with our grandparents.
It did have a stigma for
Did it?
many
Yeah.
years. So I think probably when I was, I'm going to guess 10, I found out that there was no Santa Claus. I made the mistake of asking my aunt if there was. And she said, there is no Santa Claus. So that Christmas, when I came down, there was no tree. There were no toys. There was nothing.
Why did she do that?
And I asked my uncle. We really weren't close and really didn't talk that much.
Yeah.
But out of the two of them, I preferred to ask him that question. And I asked him, why didn't Santa Claus come? And he said, my aunt said, since you know that there's no Santa Claus, there really it make any sense for us to waste our time
Waste their time?
buying things and putting up a tree. So my uncle gave me, and I don't remember the amount of money, but he gave me some money, and he told me the next day that I could go out and buy myself something.
What'd you buy?
Don't know.
You don't remember?
Don't remember.
So by the time you left your aunt to go to New Jersey, how old were you?
I was 18.
What now? People are wondering, 4 states of abuse. You're talking with the author, Dorothy Cooper Browne. The states, were they the states you went to?
They were the states that I lived in, yes.
So from Kentucky,
No, Columbus, Georgia is
Yeah,
where I was
to
born.
Kentucky.
Then I went to Beckley, West Virginia,
Okay.
where I grew up.
Yeah.
Then I went to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
when I first went to be with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And New Jersey was the 4th state.
So did the abuse followed you, it seems like, everywhere you went?
It followed me through New Jersey. When I finally decided to leave,
Yeah.
I ended up in Rhode Island. That's when the abuse stopped. So that's why that is not the state that was named.
How'd you end up in Rhode Island?
And while I was in New Jersey, I found a job.
Yeah.
I met my sister-in-law, who was a very kind, gentle, caring soul. She knew her brother was aggressive, but she did not know to the length of the abuse. And I never discussed the hitting and things like that with her.
This is the father of your child.
Yeah, this is the father of my child.
Did you have any clue in the beginning that he was like that?
He hit me one time when we were dating because I looked at another guy.
Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, that's classic.
But that was the one time,
Mm-hmm.
and then it wasn't like constant. He did a lot of screaming at me and degrading me,
Oh.
but I didn't know that was also considered abuse. I was taught that the man is the boss, the man is the head of the house.
Mm-hmm.
You do what he say. I never had a lot of confidence, even less confidence once my mother gave me away, less confidence with my aunt treating me the way I was. So I began to feel that I wasn't worthy of being treated any other way. And I must be doing something myself to bring these fits of anger or fits of abuse on.
Wasn't your fault.
For example, I cooked a meal for him once, and it was fish.
Yeah.
He caught the fish, brought the fish home, and asked me to cook it for him. I knew how to cook, obviously, but I had never cooked fish.
Uh-oh.
So I put the fish in the pan, and the grease, and cornmeal, and I thought it was done. Took it out. I put it on the plate. There were scales on the plate. I had no idea
And he got furious,
that
right?
you had to scale the fish before you cooked it. So that was one of the times that I got knocked upside my head, because what food did not know that you had to scale a fish before you cooked it?
Okay, I'll match you. I was with friends and I caught a kiver. Well, I didn't know before you cook a kiver that you have to debone it. So I just fried it on the barbecue and everything, and we were like pulling bones out of our mouths. Oh, I can sympathize with you so much. Again, we're talking with Dorothy Cooper Browne. She is the author of 4 States of Abuse. You can pick up a copy of her book downstairs in the Upton Library. And where else can they get your book, Dorothy?
Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and Target.
Target. There you go. Oh, I didn't see
Target.
the book.
Target, it just picked us up.
Okay, because I was shopping there just a few days ago, and I didn't see it. Okay, now it might be.
Yeah, that Target is new.
Good. That's excellent.
Yes.
Where have you been anywhere? I know it's going slowly, but anywhere to give presentations yet?
Have not done any presentations. I do have a couple more book signings. I have a book signing coming up in Pawtucket next Saturday. Mm-hmm. My church is going to be doing a book signing for me on November the 20th. So again, we're just starting to get moving and get out there and see what's out there. And Thea has a lot of connections because this is her business and she's been doing it for a while.
Do you know Steve Porter in Rhode Island? He is the owner of, he and his wife, a publishing or a book place there, Stillwater Press. And also he is the lead of the, every December in Cranston, Roads on the Pawtucket, humongous author fair, wall-to-wall authors.
Stillwater is where I'm scheduled for next Saturday.
He'll tell you about the December. Of course, with COVID, they didn't do it last year, but this year they might. But you go in there and you're like, talk about being overwhelmed.
I was in there on Friday, last Friday, because I had not been in there. Thea made, talk to him and set up the appointment. And I live in Pawtucket, so I stopped in just to see the lay of the land.
Yeah.
And I did meet Steve.
Yep.
And I was, very overwhelmed.
But that's not where the authors event is. The authors event is in Cranston.
Okay.
At a big, huge building called Roads on the Pawtucket or whatever. And you walk in, wall-to-wall authors, all different venues. You don't know who to stop and see first on each side of the aisle.
Wow.
I've talked with we've had many authors on, and I'm telling you, it's fun. Even the authors felt overwhelmed, but it's great. And they have classes off to the side. Steve can tell you about it. Kind of fun. It's really fun. Coming down from this area, it's probably a lot longer than it would be for you to come in from Pawtucket.
Okay.
But we're going to have
something to
wrap.
look forward to.
Do you have, before we wrap this up, Dorothy, do you have another book coming out?
Not at this time.
Not right now.
Not
Okay.
right now.
Not right now, all right. 4 States of Abuse. Pick it up downstairs. You can try what she said on Amazon and the other places. It's an excellent picture of you. Did you make your outfit?
No.
She's a beautiful. Paul, can you get her whole outfit? It's absolutely beautiful. It looks
I
like...
did have a friend that made it for me.
Oh. Is that how the ladies dressed when you were growing up, or is it now the high fashion?
I think it's kind of fashionable now.
Yeah.
But now, pretty much anything goes.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, I know about that.
But yes, it's sort of like on a Afro chic version type of dress.
It's like, what do they call it, a dashiki? No.
Well,
Oh, it has a top to the dress.
yes.
She did a great job.
Yes, she's
I
very
love
good.
Colors.
Yes.
Those look good on you.
Yes.
All right, we're going to have to sign off. If you do write another book, let me know.
Absolutely.
And we'll have you back on.
Thank you so very much.
All
It
right.
was all my pleasure.
Been great. We'll
Thank
see
you.
you next time and be my guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.